The fifth set of college football playoff rankings will be released on Tuesday, our penultimate rankings, if you will. Here's a look at Brad Crawford's bracket prediction. You see Texas Tech moving in after some things happened with Texas A&M in the Lone Star Showdown, losing to Texas, and some calling for the Longhorns to be in the field. With 3 losses, that's going to be difficult. As you see now, Texas A&M is a 5 seed, according to Brad, hosting Tulane in the first round. 8-9 stays the same. Virginia, the projected ACC champion, they will face Duke for that ACC title. Oregon hosting the Cavaliers, Alabama, and Ole Miss. The big sticking point there is, well, will Lane Kiffin be there, or will he be in Baton Rouge? That remains to be seen. This college football playoff look ahead is presented by Capital One. Back here with Beanie Wells, Richard Johnson, welcoming the aforementioned Brad Crawford. Let's start here with this. A doomsday scenario is playing out in the ACC as a 7-5 Duke team weasels its way into the ACC championship game against Virginia. Cavs beat the Blue Devils by 17 2 weeks ago, Brad, and we talked about this for the last month, how this could happen. It has now happened.
It did. SMU erased a 17-point fourth quarter deficit tonight, and then Cal game-winning drive in the final minute. Now we have a 5-loss Duke team with a chance to essentially play a home game in Charlotte next week against Virginia at Panther Stadium. And if Duke wins that game, Hakeem, you know what happens? JMU likely makes the playoff along with the American champion, and that could leave the ACC out. It depends on if the committee has Duke ranked on Tuesday night, and at 7-5, there's no way the Devils will be ranked.
Brad, I got to ask, this whole thing is a bunch of hypotheticals, what we're doing right now. So I got to ask the biggest hypothetical. Is there a situation that you envision Vanderbilt getting in this thing? If Duke does indeed win the ACC, can we see them climb up and we look at a potential 5-6 SEC team getting in this thing?
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt needed a lot of things to happen during rivalry weekend, just like Miami needed, just like Texas needed. And Beanie, frankly, it just did not. Vanderbilt's 10-2, but the only ranked win this season came today at Tennessee. I know they beat South Carolina when the Gamecocks were ranked. That does not count to the committee. They beat Missouri when they were ranked. That doesn't count either. So Vanderbilt, while they're 10-2, great finish. They're going to Orlando, not the playoff.
Richard, could we really be living in a world, in a playoff, where the ACC is shut out?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think you're going to get a really big, a really big tell if they rank Tulane, North Texas, and James Madison on Tuesday night, which I absolutely think is possible. They haven't ranked James Madison yet, but I think it's possible for them to do it. That would be a really big tell by the committee. But Brad, whether we get that bid stealing scenario or we get the 2 Big 12 bid stealing scenario of BYU winning the Big 12 championship game, who are we knocking out here out of Alabama and Notre Dame at the bottom of the at-larges?
Well, I've got to whisper this so Greg Sankey's not on the air tonight and hears this. But if Alabama gets blown out by Georgia or even loses by 2 touchdowns in Atlanta, you could see the SEC runner-up at 10-3 overall getting left out for 2 Big 12 teams, BYU getting that auto bid, and Texas Tech, because Texas Tech is not going to fall too far outside of that top 4 with a loss to BYU. But I also think Notre Dame, I know the committee has liked Notre Dame these last few weeks. That said, if there is a bid steal scenario and BYU beats Texas Tech and unexpectedly the Big 12 gets 2 bids, Notre Dame could be on the outside looking in, because after tonight's game against Stanford, the Irish don't have another opportunity to win a title.
Well, we know that there's going to be teams and fan bases disappointed when all is said and done. That's just how this is going to work. We heard Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian say after their win against Texas A&M on Friday that the Longhorns are, quote, absolutely a playoff team. Vanderbilt, Miami feel the same way, Brad. Who has the very best case among those 3 schools? And if you say all of the above are not getting in, I can agree with you.
I think it's Miami, Hakeem. I mean, coming into this weekend, several folks in Miami texted me this week, Brad, how do we get in? You have to have teams lose ahead of you as well as beat Pitt. Miami did all it could do. It controlled the controllables, as Mario Cristobal says, beat Pitt by 31 points, another ranked win today. But some of the chaos that Miami needed ahead of them just did not happen. Now, I do think there's a chance Miami is ranked ahead of BYU one more spot in Tuesday night's poll, but they still need chaos. And Notre Dame not going to lose to Stanford with a big lead. And we've seen, despite the head-to-head win over the Irish, the committee does not see Notre Dame and Miami in the same tier.
All right, so if I give you a golden ticket and you can put one of those three teams into the playoff field, doesn't matter what the playoff field looks like, and you can put one of those teams in, who are you putting in?
That's a hard question. Obviously, we've seen a lot of these teams play in big games, and the last big game I remember Texas going out and playing was obviously not outside of Texas A&M, which just happened the other night, but it's Georgia. I don't want to see Texas in this thing because I don't believe if they're playing another top-tier team that they'd be able to move the ball consistently and they'll be able to, score points on a top-tier defense. With that being said, I will have to go Miami, a team that I just talked about. I really don't feel sorry for because of the way that they lost to SMU and lost to Louisville, but I think they will probably be the most next deserving team to get in the college football playoff.
Yeah, Texas, I don't want to hear about it. Texas, 3 losses. One of them is the worst loss any of these contenders have taken against Florida earlier in the season. And they also have the loss against Georgia, which was not close. It was a good game for 3 and change quarters, and then it wasn't. So that's on your resume. It's between head and heart here with these two teams because the head wants to put Miami in because, you know what Miami is and you know what Miami's resume is, but the heart wants what the heart wants, and the heart wants Vandy. The heart wants to see Diego Pavia
That's what I want.
on the biggest stage, striking the pose up there, playing for it all. Absolutely, that would be awesome if Vanderbilt were to be able to make the dance.
I would love to see Vanderbilt in. Shouts to the Fighting Barton Simmons. I would love to see the Commodores get into this field because I think the way they're playing late, they're fun, right? You want to have stars in this playoff field, right? If we can't have Arch Manning, then give me Diego Pavia, right? Carson Beck, I'm sorry. He's had a good season, but give me Diego Pavia. All right, I'm feeling pretty good. Beanie's feeling pretty good. Actually, we're feeling great.
Feeling amazing
because
right now.
Ohio State finally beat Michigan, and now the Big Ten title game is set. Ohio State, Indiana. They've played in the past, and it's been one-sided. Buckeyes have won 30 straight against the Hoosiers. Next Saturday, it's 1 versus 2 for the Big Ten championship. Brad, do you believe the loser of that game will fall out of the top 4?
No, Akeem. I think Indiana, if it loses to Ohio State, goes to number 3. I've got the SEC champion. My projected pick, Georgia, being the 2 seed, and then Texas Tech getting that last coveted opening round bye as long as they take care of business in the Big 12 championship against BYU. So that's my 4 teams. I think you're going to see 3 conference champions and then the runner-up in the Big Ten final.
Brad, I wonder if the committee wants to introduce some modicum of jeopardy for losing a conference championship. Doesn't mean you're out of the playoff, obviously, but I do think there should be at least some penalty for losing that game. And by penalty, I just mean knocking you out of the bye seeds. The way I see it, I think the losers of the conference championship games should fall out of those top 4 seeds.
Richard, who would you put instead of Indiana in that top 4? Like which of those at-large teams in that 5, 6, 7 range do you feel is more deserving than a top 4 seed than Indiana would be if it loses to Ohio State?
Oregon, come on down. And I know what happened on the head-to-head in Autzen if it's Indiana. That ends up being the loser of the Big Ten championship game. But I'm putting Oregon in that top 4. Texas Tech obviously probably moves up as well, just by proxy. But yes, Oregon as the at-large to move up.
All right, well, we will wait to find out as you take a look at Brad Crawford's bracket prediction for our 5th set of college football playoff rankings, which will be released on Tuesday. We'll have wall-to-wall coverage right here on CBS Sports HQ.